recap of the question. If there was one piece of advice that you would give an allo person if they're talking to someone, ace or someone they didn't know about that experience, what would it be? Because, they don't want to offend people, but at the same time, if you know literally nothing about this topic about a person, you wouldn't know what is offensive or where the line is. So how would you help a person in that position?
I would start off with some more impersonal questions, because you don't know what the ace that you're talking to has been through. Mm-hmm. Everybody's story and everybody's journey is different. Everyone came about realizing it in a different way. Unfortunately for some, there's more, shall I say, baggage.
Yeah, it's true.
But very difficult baggage, emotional baggage that comes with that. And you don't want to cross a boundary. You might have crossed a boundary just by your question. Mm-hmm. So be careful and start with some more impersonal baseline questions. What is asexuality? Oh, so that's you don't feel, or you only sometimes feel sexual attraction. So what does that feel like to you when you do? Might be an okay question, depending on how you phrase it.
Right.
Just off the top of my head, I wouldn't ask it like that.
Yeah.
But I might ask something like, can you relate to movies and TV shows and books and how it's portrayed there?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
That might be something I might ask, because I think that gives you, as the allo person, a baseline of what you expect sexual attraction to be like. That gives you that commonality of language and experiences that maybe neither of you have ever actually had. Even allo people, probably a good chunk of them have never experienced some of the things they've seen in media.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
But it gives that common alley for you to walk through together. Mm-hmm. And then once you have, oh no, you haven't experienced something like that. Okay. Well, then if you're comfortable with that as an allo person, then you can dive into, well, this is how I experience it. Have you experienced anything like that, maybe?
Yeah, that one.
Give the ace person some idea, because you don't know what they've experienced, and if you really want to know, give them a jumping point.
Yeah, give them somewhere to start with. I definitely agree with everything you said. One thing I learned, I was doing a volunteer training for Arrow and Ace resources, printing and all of those things, and social media sharing. They emphasized the point of not making people feel like they're in a box. So even if you have something like aromanticism, it feels like a very concrete definition to me, but then at the same time, something that might be obvious to you is not the experience of that person. So instead of saying like, oh yeah, well, everyone has sexual feelings, nah, maybe many people do. Don't make things so obsolete, because then you give that opportunity for someone to have a differing experience or a differing opinion. So it can be as simple as that. That might be just changing the actual language that you use. As long as you keep that in mind, you can also frame your questions in that manner too. So that's what my advice to you guys. And
there's a lot of discrepancy, especially lately, that I've been seeing. Some people in their content will say that they want to focus on the things that they as an aspec person do experience. Mm-hmm. Others focus on what they don't experience. I think a good way to bridge that is if we start talking about what we as our individual selves value. Mm-hmm. Because if we focus on what we value, then we can get a broader idea of just how big our spectrum really is.
Yeah.
And we reach some common ground. Some people won't value what they don't connect with.
Yeah.
Or the attractions that they don't feel. They wouldn't lump that in. Some people might not value the things that they do feel because they want to focus on, this is what defines me. And that's valid too.
Yeah.
So I think if we talk about what we value, that groups us all in a way of not grouping us at all.
Yeah, because you can.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Because like, I say that I value loyalty, and that can go for romantic partners or whatever. But that also does go along with family and friends. Because if I know that you talking trash about me behind my back, and guess what? No one's coming to Christmas this year.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of crossover with the personality traits, like you mentioned, loyalty, between platonic attraction, sexual attraction, romantic attraction. If we break down the aspects that we want from those, instead of just focusing solely on, well, I don't feel romantic attraction, so I don't want a relationship. We can focus on what types of relationships we are building without necessarily having to put a label on the type of attraction, which is totally fine if you want to do that. And that language is always there for you as a tool if you want to use a label. It's the same way as I always talk about defining yourself as an asexual person or as an aro person or using micro labels. All of these things are tools.
Yeah.
Language is always tools that you can choose to use or choose not to use.
Yeah. It was kind of going back to the point that I had just asking about like what is your attitude about relationships. I know for me, I tend to kind of gravitate towards people that I have like a friendly connection to, and I'm not saying that I date all my friends, because I most certainly do not. But if you know all of the things that matter to that person, and you know exactly what you want, and like you said, it doesn't have to be like, well, I want you to be open to like XYZ types of relationships. Well, what does that mean to you? Do you want me to hold your hand? Do you want me to hang with you every week? Do you want me to meet your family? Do you want to meet mine? Do you want me to, I don't know, gas up your car or something? Like specific actions that person can take, because as an ace who is actually dating, it's super, super important for you to be able to line out those actions that you need the other person to do, because they can think like, oh yeah, I'm meeting this other person's needs because I'm doing all of these 3 things, but then it's not the 3 things that you want them to do or you need them to do. So it's really important that you line that out. And sometimes it does change, but if it changes, you have to let them know, because they can't read your mind.
Yeah. And sometimes relationships are also built on the types of activities that you engage in.
Yeah.
Whether that's obviously sexual attraction.
Yeah.
Romantic attraction has a lot of specific activities that are associated with it, especially as you dive further into your relationship. Some of them become more and more intimate. But there's no reason that cuddling couldn't be between friends. Kissing doesn't necessarily have to be confined to a romantic relationship either.
Because you're family in certain ways, of course.
There's certain things you can hold hands with your friends.
Yeah.
There's no reason you can't do that. So that's another way that breaking down some of those barriers and talking about what we value and what we're looking for can help our entire spectrum start to see things more broadly.